Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck and I get to do the most interesting work. I meet people all around our area who have stories to tell. I welcome back the Marriotts. It has been nice to meet you.
It's been nice to meet you too.
What did you do with the tape from last time that we talked?
Well, we've shown it to quite a few people.
And I hear you ordered 5 more. What's that about?
Well, the 5 tapes we ordered was for our 3 kids, and friends of ours wanted one, so we got another one for them, and the extra is for us.
And I think one set's going to the new Glendale Museum that they're building.
Now, who are you and what's the Glendale Museum about?
Well, I met this girl quite a long while ago.
About how long ago?
I think it was in the 40s. And she moved out from Missouri, and lo and behold, her family moved right across the street from us. So that was pretty nice.
I think it was in 38.
Oh, 38.
You know, that's the year I was born, so I can figure out 70 years ago you came out west.
I lived across and moved across the street from him.
Yeah.
You were just a child then. But
Yeah,
he
she-
had eyes for the younger woman, right?
Well, you know, it was nice to have, we lived about 5 miles out from Sacramento, and we didn't have any other families around there, so it was nice to have another family move in close to us.
It didn't take long, and he's thinking more than family. New family.
I had a 1929 Whippet.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and a little roadster, so I would take her and her brothers and sisters for a ride around the Washington Lake.
Oh, now that sounds wonderful. Chaperoned.
Well, yeah, that was my dad's idea, I think. Because he said that I could go if I'd take the kids.
And he went along with it because you were worth every minute of it. Now, what and when did you come to Oregon Territory?
Well, in 1948, we struck out looking at property along the coast, Highway 101, and ended up at Grants Pass to look at one more piece of property. And we wanted to move up in the hills, the mountains here, to raise our kids. We kind of wanted to get away from city, you know.
By this time you had how many? You had how many children?
2.
2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you're driving north on Highway 99.
Well, 101 till we got to Grants Pass, then 99.
You left out Highway 199, which is the crooked road.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you remember coming from the coast over to Grants Pass? Do you remember the road that you traveled in 19 and what?
Well, that was in 47.
There was no Collier Tunnel. There was none of those
No,
easy turnouts.
Yeah, it's a windy road.
it was a windy road.
And from Grants Pass, then where did you go?
Well, we had a listing of a property in Glendale about 25 miles north, and so we went up to take a look at it. Glendale was a little logging town on the railway, but it wasn't, this business we looked at was 4 miles away from Glendale. The highway didn't go through Glendale. So that was kind of the jumping off place to go to Glendale. Mm-hmm.
And the business was already there.
Yeah, it was kind of a mom and pop country store and gas pumps and a garage and some rental cabins, and they had a wrecker and a pretty nice garage, a double bay garage. And
Now you're talking about this place, right?
That's
Is
right.
that the way it looked when you drove up?
that's the way. And you'll notice the logging trucks are a little bit smaller. Most of them were just a single axle truck. And
But the logs that they're carrying are as long as a country mile. I mean, you don't see them that way anymore.
yeah.
And now this is your store, and,
Yeah.
and 99 Highway goes right by it, so you have a lot of traffic because there hasn't been another gas station for miles, right?
Yeah, and that was the Greyhound bus stop where people would catch the bus or get off to go to Glendale.
And did you offer some food in there? I mean, there's a picture here that shows me.
Those
Well,
are
those were later
later on.
when we were over on the new junction.
Yeah.
Because this is on the old 99 Crooked Highway.
Yes.
2 lanes,
Yeah, 2 lanes.
up and over. Well, why don't you jump right in and tell us what you accomplished in those next few years?
Well, you'll notice that there, if you look close, you had 1 electric gas pump and 2 uprights. Those are the kind you pumped with your hand, pump 10 gallons up and gravity emptied them out.
I loved them.
Yeah.
I bet
And,
you didn't. They were hard work, right?
Well, I don't know how
That,
hard.
that you know. You pumped gas
Yes.
and washed bugs off windshields?
Sure.
Of course.
We were young those days. We just could tackle about anything, you know.
Speaking of age,
I told her we worked hard for 15 years and we're retired. She believed it.
so how long have you two been married?
Well, it'll be 67 years this fall.
Think it'll last?
I think so.
Then you added on. Was the restaurant and the original?
No,
No, the restaurant came along afterwards.
after we bought this place, chainsaws were really new. And in fact, the fellas, if they did have a chainsaw, they would take their handsaw along with them because a lot of times the chainsaw didn't make it through the day. And so one of the fellas that lived in one of our little cabins, he said, Clyde, you better get into the chainsaw business. A McCullough chainsaw is going to be the best thing going. And I thought I already was busy enough, but one day he was going to Roseburg. He said, come on with me. We'll go over and talk to the McCullough distributor. And so
The little wife can take care of business while you're
yeah,
gone.
yeah. So we went over to Roseburg, and I came back with a chainsaw and $500 worth of parts, and I was in business. Had no idea how big that business was going to grow. But being an airplane mechanic, why I had mechanic aptitude to be able to take care of them.
Now, where did you become an airplane mechanic? Not
I had trained in Sacramento Junior College, and then during the war I was airplane mechanic too.
where was that?
Yeah, well, I spent 2 years in England, patching up, shot up B-17s and changing engine and repairing them and whatever.
Keeping our fly boys going.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a bunch. We've got that 48-star flag back there. We waved it over here for you guys. I don't know if you knew how supportive we were.
Oh,
planting
yes.
our victory gardens, and our rows went in V's to prove that they were victory gardens.
Our whole country was involved in that because you had to do with 4 gallons of gas a week, and you had the tires rationed and you know, so many things, and everybody put their heads to work during the war effort, and it was wonderful.
What were you doing during the war?
I was taking care of my little boy.
Down in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now it wasn't until your little boy was a bit older. And which part of this is your responsibility? You stopped pumping gas and moved to what?
To the drive-in.
That's
drive-in.
This is it. What's it called?
The Dixie Dog.
The Dixie Dog. And any traveler got hungry, he just stopped for a Dixie Dog.
See right here. It says Dixie Dog.
Oh, I bet you a lot of people that are watching this show will remember Dixie Dog, and you. After you did this, you got involved in, when was it that you moved out of?
Canyonville?
No, they moved you away from this location, right?
Well, we
In
moved from
six-
the old Glendale Junction over to the new road, which is only about 3/4 of a mile. We bought 57 acres over there on the new highway, and so this is a building.
Well, it's a new gas station and new paving, and you
You
had
can see the little shop on the right there. That was our saw shop, 16 by 20 the first year, and boy, we were really going great guns on chainsaws.
You know, there was a time when logging was king around here.
Oh,
Up
yes.
in Glendale, for sure. What about this big move of yours from Glendale? I mean, I-5 kind of wiped you out, is that right? It wasn't so easy to stop at your Dixie Dog and once there wasn't road in front of you.
Well, they took everything because they wanted to use the gravel in this hill behind us, where our house was.
Well, yeah, you see where that hill that we bought there was actually a rock pile. And so when the highway came through to build a double lane, they wanted that hill. And so,
Well, sure, if you can get rock right
Yeah.
there on site, why not?
Yeah.
So that was where your hill went.
yeah, so the new, of course, you know, the road is divided. You got 2 lanes going, then you got a
Fortunately.
divider lane, and the second one came right where that service station is.
So you're out of luck.
Yeah, so we had to just kind of pick up our marbles and go somewhere else.
And where did you go next?
Well, you know, when the highway takes you out, they just pay you for the buildings. They don't pay you for inventory or parts or nothing. So we ended up going to Canyonville and building a new shop over there.
And before we leave, this is in Glendale?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell me about this? It looks like the old swimming hole.
It is. That's where the town of Glendale used to come out and go swimming.
And this is on your place?
Uh-huh.
I'll bet there's kids watching today that are now as gray can be, and they'll say, wasn't that?
Lots of the Glendale kids came out there. That was a favorite. It happened to be in the stream where there was quite a rocky area, and then this was kind of a hole at the end of the rocky area. And every year it would wash itself out and made a real nice swimming pool.
Sandy Beach, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mentioned that you moved on to Canyonville.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? Little bitty junction town?
Well, Canyonville was growing, and of course they gave me Glendale, Canyonville, Myrtle Creek, and Riddle as an area to serve. So I had enough people to make it a going business.
And you didn't miss being cook, bottle washer, and gas pumper when he changed careers, did you?
Well, no, he just moved me over into the saw shop.
And she did the bookwork. And
So you can do that
she
too.
run the saw too, the chops part of the time.
I just marvel at women who held it all together while you guys were over there. And when you came back, they just shoulder to shoulder worked with you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The saw shop is where we found you, but Canyonville is what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, how did you move to Canyonville? Why Canyonville? It's an old town, I'm told.
It's the
It's the third oldest town in Oregon.
It is.
And it really evolved because it happened to be at the bottom of a very difficult canyon to negotiate. And so by the time they got there, either the wheels were broken or the tongues on their wagon, and they had to have blacksmith work done before they could proceed on north. So Canyonville evolved, you might say. In fact, it's just this year, it's celebrating its 150th anniversary.
You said the third oldest town in Oregon. Tell us about this celebration. They had to have a big birthday cake, right?
Yes, they have had a big birthday deal on it, and it's of course they always have, you know, pioneer days and parades, and many of the senior citizen women will be on the Princess Parade, and so they put on square dances and dressed in their old costumes, and so it gets to be a very nice thing.
Did you grow a big beard for the occasion?
They used to, and I don't know, I guess they did this year.
But you didn't. Now,
No.
did you dress in a costume of vintage costume?
I used to, but not this year.
Oh my, well maybe you can find a picture of other years so we can see you in costume. There was one thing back in the gas station that we didn't talk about. What was that great big wooden car?
Smokey the Bear?
Smokey the Bear.
Okay. Well, a fellow was going to school in Eugene studying architecture and so forth, and so during Christmas vacation he came by the saw shop of our distributor at that time, and he wanted to see whether he could use a chainsaw, what he could cut out of wood, and he cut out a real nice replica of a timber cutter with a tin hat and everything, and our distributor thought, well, that was pretty nice. Why don't I get him to make one for 5 different shops, different heads? So, in fact, the fella needed work because he had 4 little girls and he's trying to go to school. So he made one at Jacqueline Kennedy, and I don't know, several others. But when he came to our shop, we had a pretty big log, and so we didn't know what he was going to do with it, but he got started, and after 2-3 days, we could see he had Smokey the Bear pretty well cut out. So.
Oh, you know, I can almost remember seeing that Smokey the Bear. I grew up on driving that on 99 highway and then I-5.
Yeah.
But back to Canyonville and its history. Would you read just a little bit out of this new book that they've published?
Well, you know, when we go to Canyonville from here, you know, the time you get to the top of the mountain there, from Mazaya, it's only about 9 miles down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now we drive, you know, 70 miles an hour. We're there and nothing flat, but it was a real rough place. Because the hillside came down so sharp to the stream that the only place you could run the buggy is in the stream. And it wasn't uncommon to disassemble their wagons and carry them over the rough spots and reassemble them, put them back together. So in the book that they put out here, it says wagons had to be disassembled numerous times. It took weeks to bring the wagons through that canyon. And then as it goes on, of course, they were wanting, the government decided that they needed to have a military road there. So they allocated a big $12,000 to build a road through that canyon. And with the tools they had those days, that must have really been something. In fact, today, down in Canyonville, if you leave Canyonville, you'll see a piece of concrete road there in 1922. That's when they first really built a decent road, and it was a toll road. Those days, they had a lot of toll roads. And like you said, where the soft spots were, they put logs crosswise to get through the soft spots.
And what did they call that? A corduroy road.
That's Yeah, yeah.
Now, is that old road that you just mentioned right by Woodrow Campbell's house?
Yeah,
Ah.
that's still part of the old highway.
Woodrow was one of the guests here, Dr. Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you've got more things here in this history book.
I noticed too, you know, when we're mixing concrete, we have to have all our aggregate the right size and everything else. But if you look at that piece of concrete, 1922, it's got big old creek run gravel in it, and still it's held together, you know. Today we have to have all the steel in it, rebars, everything else, but how that stood together, I don't know.
Now, I've got to go look at that road because I hadn't noticed that there's a difference. But of course, there was a time they didn't sort gravel the way they do now.
Yeah, I made a mistake. They allocated $20,000 to construct the road, and then it said, you know, it wasn't too long till they had stagecoaches. The Concord coach was really a nice one. Rode like a cradle or a rocking chair. And
Sure, I bet it did.
Yeah.
Can't you just almost feel it?
and the coaches were pulled by 6-horse teams in the summer.
They really did
And in
ride nicely.
Did you ever go in a stagecoach?
Well, not, I went on stagecoach, but not down the canyon or anything.
They do ride nice. They do ride nice.
Do
They
they?
had kind of leather straps from one way to the other, and it did make them pretty nice riding.
It's not like a buckboard or
No.
a hay wagon or something.
No,
Now, they do have some reenactments that go on there at Azalea, or at
What?
the town with the
Can-
museum and all that is.
Canyonville.
You have a Canyonville museum,
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
and down the road there's a museum at towards
There's one
Rex-
toward Glendale.
There's another one.
It's just that one's in the process of being built. It's a big homestead there that the Martin family lived in, and
Different Martins.
yeah.
But,
And so they just got through having a barbecue to help generate some more funds to keep improving it. And so they work on it, and it's coming along pretty well.
and the Applegate Trail Museum's just down the road from you guys, isn't it?
At Sunny Valley, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, we've heard lots about that. I wanted to find out about other things in there. There's pictures of the old timers and 150 years of. There's the park you talked about has a huge tree, so big you'll want to take the kids' picture by it, but it's not a real tree, is it?
It's just a piece of a
This
log.
had a picture of a team pulling the logs there. There is a huge tree there on the Harder property, Bernita, that many people used to camp under. And huge limbs on it, top's been broken out of it, but it still keeps growing. But that is a real interesting tree for you to look at if you ever happen to be there, just on the,
That was on the Yoakum place.
was it? Okay.
And the road that goes out to Milo, there's a museum, a park there, and I understand they cut the bark and kept the tree, kept the lumber and put the bark.
Yes, there's a piece of a big fir tree there that they have to show you the size of it and also the age of it, and they put a roof on it so it wouldn't deteriorate. That's very interesting too.
Now, we've got some older pictures of you. We just have to go back a little bit in history. What were you doing here?
Well, that was one of our trips down to Guatemala. That was replacing some churches. You know, they had an earthquake down there, and it damaged several churches. So we went down and helped build 7 of them one winter.
And this is,
That's
A school.
one of the new schools we built in the Dominican Republic, and
now who's paying you for doing this work?
those are all vacation, just free. You pay your way there and back, plus even the food, whatever. So that's a working vacation.
That's a working vacation, and what are you doing here?
Well, I was cutting out felts for the
So you take
Children.
teaching aids as well as building the buildings. You've got, I know that these projects, now this is the finished project? No, this is the finished
Yeah,
project.
that's right. Yeah. Now The schools in Dominican Republic have to be built to stand 200-mile-an-hour winds because, you know, we have these hurricanes or tornadoes coming across here quite frequently.
Now, the last trip you went on, you were not young folks, maybe
Yeah.
in your middle 80s, and you said, hey, I think I'll go to south of the border and give a hand.
I worked with my two sons, and when they saw my face get too red, they said, "Dad, sit down." I used to tell other people that.
When your face got
We have
too
2 minutes.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of volunteerism is one of the reasons why I wanted you back again. The
Yeah.
first time they were on TV, same guy, same gal, just
Yeah.
different shirts.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for showing us what fun it is to be 80-something. What kind words can you say to the people that are sitting home in the rocking chair?
Boy, get out of that rocking chair and do something. I think working for somebody else or doing some other community project or wherever it is the most fulfilling there is.
Would you echo his comments?
Yes, I would.
Because you've
Thank-
done a lot.
When you get to where you sit in a rocking chair, can't do anything, you got all these memories.
Now you folks can understand why when they said, hey, we can come back down from Canyonville and we've got more stories to tell.
Yes, we have. Mhm.
It's just recently that several of the guests that I've had on over the years have said the same thing, and I applaud because that says this is working. People like to hear stories.
Well, I encourage them to visit the museum in Canyonville. It's very, very interesting.
It is. It's like a little old mill in part. Isn't it a mill building?
Part of the machinery there is mill machinery, mining machinery, and all that sort of thing.
Well, thanks again for coming all that way down 99 Highway,
Thank
and
you,
we'll
Bernie.
see
We-
you on the TV real soon.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Bernie Martin Beck saying bye for this time.